Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the etrailer invisible base plate kit here on a 2021 Jeep Cherokee. So a base plate kit is just going to be one of the several components that we need to successfully flat tow our vehicle here. So the base plate is going to be the actual physical connection from the tow bar to our motorhome. Now in addition to the base plates, we're obviously going to need a tow bar as well. Most of them come with safety cables, but if yours doesn't, they are required by law. In addition to that, we're going to need a wiring kit, such as a diode wiring harness that's going to transfer these signals from the motorhome to our vehicle here. And then last but not least, in most states, they also require a supplemental braking system, which is simply an aid to help the motorhome come to a safe and effective stop. So this is what our base plate kit is going to look like hooked up to our tow bar while we're traveling down the road. And we've arrived to our destination. We're ready to head in town. It's super easy to unhook this. We're going to start here by opening this linch pin here. You want to be careful when you're using these. You can't really going to hurt yourself too bad, but sometimes you can kind of pinch your skin there between the pin and this clip. It's sort of annoying, so just be careful when you're using these. But we'll remove that, and then we're going to go ahead and pull out your pin. And if your pin is too tight there, you may need to release the tension on your tow bar there using the prescribed procedure for your actual tow bar, because it can vary depending on which one you have. But we're just going to remove that pin like so, and you can see our arm is just going to drop right out. Now we can go ahead and remove our safety cable here from the keeper on the side, just like that. And then if we have any electrical or breakaway that we need to unhook, we would do that now as well. And I'd also like to point out that you can actually leave this arm installed here, or you can remove it. It's totally up to you guys. If you want to remove it for a nice, cleaner, sleek finish, we can just remove this linch pin, rotate this, and pull it out like so. And there we go. That's what it's going to look like when we're driving around town. There's actually a cover that's going to go in here well if you really wanted that finished install look. We can show you what that looks like as well. So here's that cover we mentioned. Pretty easy, just snaps into place. There's going to be two little keepers on the side there to keep it from falling out. And this is going to do a couple different things. Number one, it's going to protect the inside of the base plate so we don't have to worry about any dirt, debris getting in there, or water getting in there and rusting it over time, although it is powder coated, so won't be an issue. But, and again, in addition to the protection, also looks a little bit nicer. That's sort of a theme of this base plate kit here. It has a really nice finished install look. Everything is going to be sort of hidden behind the bumper here for the most part. The only thing that does stick out is the safety chain convenience link, or the safety chain tab, whatever you want to call that. And the reason that these do stick out is because we don't want to come each time with our safety cables. If it was too close to the bumper, we'd risk hitting the cables on the bumper and scratching them out. So it's actually a good thing that those are a little bit further away, just to keep it out away from the vehicle. But as we said here, everything has a nice durable powder coated finish. This is a very durable finish. It's definitely not going to flake off or chip on you. Therefore, it's definitely going to protect the metal underneath there from rust and corrosion. And it also helps it, again, blend in with the underbody paneling on the vehicle here. It's not quite an exact match, but it definitely helps it blend in more. So now when we're ready to hook back up to our tow bar, it's super easy. We can go ahead and just remove your protective cap there. Then we can take our removable arm, insert that in there this way, then rotate it either direction there to line up our holes, doesn't matter. Take our linch pin here, secure it like so, super easy. Now we're going to take our tow bar arm, we're going to line up the holes in that, and install our hitch pin and clip there, just like that. Reinstall our linch pin. Now we'll take our safety cables, hook it up to the convenience leaks, and now we just repeat that same process on the other side, then hook up the rest of our stuff, such as the breakaway switch cable and our electrical connector. So in regards to compatibility, no matter what tow bar we have, we're going to be able to hook it up to this base plate kit. That's actually one of the reasons I really like this particular kit, because it's going to be widely compatible with all the different tow bars on the market. Now, straight out of the box, it's going to be directly compatible with both Demco and etrailer tow bars, as well as Blue Ox and Turk tow bars. If you have another tow bar from another manufacturer, such as Roadmaster, you can still use this base plate kit, but you will need an adapter. But aside from that, it's very cross-compatible with the different manufacturers of tow bars on the market. So in regards to installation, base plate kits are usually some of the more involved parts of your flat tow setup. This one, however, it's really not that bad at all. I know when I was installing this, I was really kind of expecting to be cutting and hacking into the vehicle a lot more because a lot of base plate kits require this. But this one was almost completely bolt-on. There was no cutting or drilling on the vehicle whatsoever. We just had to trim the fascia slightly to let our base plate arms go through there. But aside from that, I would definitely say this is something you guys can at home do yourself. In regards to the tools needed, pretty much just basic common hand tools. You don't need any special tools from Chrysler or anything like that. So it's definitely doable for a do-it-yourselfer. In regards to the time it's going to take you, this is kind of going to vary largely depending on your skill and your experience level. I would say if you give yourselves an afternoon, around 4 hours or so, that should be plenty. You can take your time, get it done right, and save yourself some money. So first step of our installation, we need to open up the hood on our vehicle. We're going to have this filler panel here. So we need to actually remove this. It's easy to do that. We're just going to grab a flat blade screwdriver. And on the top of this panel, we're going to have several push pin fasteners located throughout. There's some on the back here. There's 2 in the very back. We have a couple up here. So there is going to be several of them. We need to remove them all in order to get this panel out. Now, in order to remove them, it's pretty easy. There's going to be a little slot there between the two sections of the fastener. You're going to take your screwdriver there. We're going to be prying open that center section there. So once you get that center section out, the bottom piece should follow. So there's one. Now we have several more that we need to remove in that same process. Now with all of our fasteners removed, we should be able to remove the panel there. You do have a couple knobs on the bottom. You need to sort of align it so we can pull it out just like so. Now we'll go ahead and set this aside. Once we get that filler panel removed, behind here we're going to see we have a torque screw attaching part of our fascia tab to the body of the vehicle. So we need to remove that. There's one on each side using a T30 Torx bit. Next, we need to come inside to our wheel well here, and on the bottom we're going to have 2 screws which we'll remove with an 8mm socket, one here, and then we're going to have 2 more plastic push pin fasteners above that, one here and one here. We need to do this on both sides. Now, if you don't have a handy little tool like this, you can actually get into the vehicle, start it up, and turn the wheel to give you more room to work. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to come underneath the front bumper here in front of the front wheel. We're going to have our little mud flap section that's held in place with 3 metal rivets. Now, in order to remove this, we have to drill out those 3 rivets using a 3/16 inch drill bit. And if you have a right angle drill bit driver, that's certainly going to help with this. There's 1, 2, 3, and then we have 3 more on the other side as well. So once you get the 3 rivets drilled out, this removes pretty easily. It just slides down and out like so. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be loosening this fender liner trim piece here. We're going to be loosening the clips up to about this point here. We don't have to remove it completely. First things first, we're going to take a trim panel tool. We're just going to pry open the liner here from the inside. Just like that. We can kind of shove it back, pin it against the tire to give us more room to work. But then once we do that, we're actually going to look in here and you're going to see these white little clips. So we're going to have one at the bottom here, one here, and I believe there's one up here as well. So we actually need to depress those as we pull out on the fender liner there to release them. Sometimes you can do it both by hand, sometimes it requires a set of pliers. But we're just going to pull it while we're depressing it at the same time. If you have this plastic trim panel tool, you can kind of get it in there to wedge it out. See, that one's already loose, so now I'm just going to pull it to release the outside clips. There we go. So we've got that one there. Looks like we have another one up here. So we're again going to go ahead and pull out at the same time as we depress that clip. And there's another clip on the inside. We'll show you that in a second. But just take your time there, pull it out. And now if we jump onto the other side, we can show you those other clips that were holding it in place. So in addition to those little push pin fasteners here, we have these clips on the outer edge. Now normally you can just pull these out, but if they're giving you some trouble, you can sort of sneak a trim panel tool in there and depress that section there to pull it out. But we've got it most of the way pulled back. I'm going to reach up here. I'm going to repeat that same process there for that other fastener we talked about, and then we'll just repeat that same process on the other side. So we reached up there and released that other fastener, and this is about what we're looking for in regards to how much we need to peel it away. And what I like to do is I just stick a piece of wadded up paper towel in there, and that sort of helps it keep it away from the vehicle a little bit more so we don't damage it when we're taking off the bumper. I'm also going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to tape up these tabs because, again, we don't want them scratching the paint on our bumper when we're removing it and installing it. So keep in mind, if you guys break any of these clips, more than likely you're going to break those right there. And that's totally fine. Most of the time you can still re-secure the fender trim there without any noticeable issues, such as this sort of coming off, because we have several sets of clips. But most local auto parts stores will actually carry those clips, so you could easily just head into town, pick up some ones. There are just several different types, so make sure you get the one that's for a Jeep or for Chrysler products. But like I said, not a huge deal if you break a couple. I break them all the time, so just keep that in mind when you're re-securing the panel here. So now if we look back up here under the fender, behind the plastic bumper cover, you are going to see one bolt that goes straight down like that. So we're going to use a 10mm socket. We're going to get that out. If you don't have enough room to work, you can sort of peel the fender liner back a little bit more, but it should still be visible from what we were working with earlier. Go ahead and remove that. And then again, we have one on the other side we need to remove as well. Next, we're going to come underneath the vehicle here with a 10mm socket. You're going to see 4 bolts here, sort of where these 2 panels meet, so we need to remove those. So now we're ready to start removing the bumper cover. Before we do that, we need to come to either side here. We're going to take a flat blade screwdriver. We're going to sort of sneak it between those 2 panels like so and sort of pry out. And then we can take this edge of the fascia here and pull out to release the clips. Just like that. So now that we have this side popped out, we're going to carefully begin removing all the clips here along the bottom of the headlight, working our way to the other side of the vehicle. If you have someone over there to help you hold this, that's certainly going to help as well. I believe we're going to have some wires to disconnect because we do have a model with fog lights, so just make sure you keep that in mind. So yeah, it looks like over here on the driver's side, we do have a wiring harness to undo. So here's that wiring harness. We're going to pull down on this yellow tab like so. And then we're actually just going to pull up on that red tab, and it should just come right out. So once we have our bumper off, we're going to come in here to our bumper support. What we're going to do is we're going to take a 15mm socket. There's 3 bolts holding this on. We need to remove them. And then we're going to have this little plastic nut here. Well, it's not actually plastic, it is metal, but it just kind of pulls off. So just keep that in mind. So we can just pull this straight off. So ours is fighting us a little bit, so I'm just going to take a trim panel tool and just pry that off like that, and then we can just remove it. And again, we have one on the other side we need to remove. What we're going to do next is we're also going to be removing 2 bolts here for the bumper beam flange. So that same 15mm socket, we're just going to be removing the bottom ones. So now we're going to take the driver side base plate arm. It's clearly labeled driver. We're going to set this into position on the vehicle. Now keep in mind the instructions do note that on some models you need to hammer down that little standoff tab coming from the vehicle. Ours fit with the little oblong cutout there in the driver side base plate arm, so we didn't have to do that. But now we can go ahead and secure it using the factory hardware, those longer bolts with some Loctite on there. We'll just simply re-secure it in the same holes that we used to remove the old bracket. So just loosely thread those on. We won't be tightening them all the way down now. It looks like we have 2 other bolts here. Just make sure we don't forget our Loctite. So now that we have the 3 bolts in at the bottom here, we have 2 more at the top. So for these, we're actually not going to be using the factory bolts. We're going to be using these bolts here that come in your kit. And we're going to be using the Fender washer too, not to be confused with just a regular flat washer. The Fender washers are a little bit larger in diameter, and then a split lock washer. So what we're going to do is place the lock washer over there, follow that up with the Fender washer, and then as always, apply some Loctite. And then we can go ahead and insert that into the hole and just loosely secure it for now. So this one's a little tricky there because we have the bracing there on our base plate. So you may need to reach around to the other side like so, but we just need to get them started for now. And again, we have another hole there directly beside this one. So the one on the inside here, I can't quite fit my hand in there, so I'm going to take a 17mm socket with a 6" extension, and I'm going to use that to guide the bolt in there and just tighten it loosely as best as we can. Yeah, so there we go. That worked pretty good. Just a 6" extension there and a short well socket. A deep well wouldn't work too well for that. But there we have it. So next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be grabbing our flat rectangular plates that look like this. Our 3/8 bolts, they're the very long ones that come in your kit. And then we're going to use the same split lock washer and the actual flat washer, not to be confused with that Fender washer, which is a much larger diameter. So we're going to assemble that like so. We're going to take this flat plate here. We're going to place it on top of the tube for our bumper there. You can kind of see this is going to line up with the tabs here on the bottom of the base plate. So what we're going to do is we're going to first apply some Loctite to the threads there on these bolts. And then we're going to stick it down through that top hole. We may need to put it through there first. And then in turn, this should in theory line up with the weld nut there on the hole for our base plate. So we can begin threading that in just like so. I think we've got some paint there because our bolt isn't wanting to thread freely. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out there and try to clean out that paint as best we can because I don't want to risk stripping the threads on there. So yeah, I can already see down in there, there's quite a bit of paint on there, which isn't great. So I'm just going to clean that out as best as I can to get our bolt to thread in freely. So I don't have a tap handy, so what I went ahead and did is I just went ahead and grabbed one of the 3/8 bolts that come in your kit there. I removed all our washers and everything. And I just sort of started it by hand so I know it was going in correctly. You're going to be doing that mostly by feel. And then it sort of gets some resistance here. So now I'm going to take a 9/16" socket. I'm just going to begin tightening this down until the bolt goes all the way through the weld nut there. Then we'll come back with a wire brush there and some spray lubricant and get all that residual paint out. But I'm going to go ahead and do this on both sides since I'm pretty sure it's going to be an issue, as well as our other base plate kit there, just to save us some headache. So I've got both of our holes cleaned out. Now we're going to try this again. Stick our bolt down through there, and it should thread in much easier. Yeah, perfect. We'll get that one started. I don't want to go too far. Take our other one here, split lock washer, flat washer, Loctite. And these are actually the 2 bolts we're going to torque first here. So if you remember, we left all the other ones loose earlier because we need to draw the base plate up towards the bottom of the bumper beam before we start torquing those. So these will actually get torqued first. And you know what? I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put both of those into that plate first. And I should just be able to stick it through like this and rotate it down. Yeah, there we go. So we don't have a ton of room to get a ratchet in there, so we're just going to use a box wrench now. You're going to need a 9/16". We're just going to begin tightening both of these down. So please note that while we're tightening these bolts down, we want to alternate back and forth because we want to draw this plate down as evenly as possible. So we're going to tighten a few turns here, switch to the other side, tightening it, and just keep repeating that same process until both sides are snug. So now we'll switch over to our torque wrench here, torque these down to spec. Again, alternating. We should have enough clearance Now that we have the bolts snugged up, so they don't require a lot of torque. Once I get these top two tightened, we're going to snug up our bolts on the bottom there and torque those to spec as well. It is a different size socket for those. And then once we get all these bolts torqued down, we're going to repeat this same process on the other side for our other base plate arm. So we've got the base plate finished up on both sides here. Now we're going to take our safety cables that come in your kit here. They look like this. One of your quick links. So we're going to take one of the ends here. I'm just going to shove it down through that little opening there on the other side. And then they're both going to come out sort of at the bottom here. There should be a hole there on your base plate that we're going to attach one of the quick links to. Just like so. And we'll place one end of the cable through the link, the other end through the other side there, just like that. And now we'll just simply tighten this nut here. I'll tighten it by hand, then I'll come back with a wrench and turn it another quarter turn or so. So next thing we need to do, we need to come over to our bumper here. We're going to flip it so we have the back side. This is what we're going to be working with. Now for starters, we're going to be removing these little side pieces here. You can sort of see the main grill mesh there. We have these little side cutouts. So we're going to take a 7mm socket. We're going to remove that nut there. And then we're going to take some needle nose pliers. On the ends here, you're going to see these white clips. So we're just going to depress those, and then we should be able to pull them out. So in order to remove these little plastic clips here, we're just going to press down there on the top section. And we should be able to pull them the rest of the way out, just like that. We have a couple more here on the back side as well. There we go, and now this piece should pop out. So now we're going to flip the bumper back over. You can sort of see where those mesh inserts are. So we're going to be trimming these out. Now I think we have to go a little bit more than just the little louvers here. So there's sort of a line here on the inside. We're just going to pretty much trace that as best as we can with our Dremel tool here. So let's go ahead and give that a try now. Go ahead and remove that section. So now that we have this out, what we're going to do now is I want to clean up all those rough edges there. So I think I'm going to come back with the sanding bit that goes on your Dremel there. If you have a file, or what works really good is a utility knife, just to clean up all those rough edges there. Once I do that, I'm going to repeat the same process on the other side. And then I'm going to test fit the bumper on the vehicle. Make sure the base plate arms stick through there. They're not kidding on anything. If they are, then we'll obviously have to come back, trim a little bit more, but just sort of play it by feel here to get this right cut out. So now we're ready to reinstall our bumper cover on the vehicle here. Keep in mind, if you've installed any additional accessories in the meantime, such as an electrical connector or a breakaway switch, you may or may not need to do some additional trimming to the bumper, the mesh portion at the bottom, to accommodate those additional accessories. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and throw it on now. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the eTrailer Invisible Base Plate Kit here on our 2021 Jeep Cherokee.